Hello. Welcome. It's the Jack and Joe show. Joe Sansom, my good friend, my good colleague. I suppose you're a colleague, aren't you? I suppose we work together in this
Yeah,
capacity. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well, thank you. I was just saying to you before we started, I'm excited for a big week of football, not just Fulham, but we've got the Champions League. We've got a full slate of EFL action midweek. And then we've obviously got Premier League and FA Cup quarter-final action this weekend. So really looking forward to the last hurrah before the international break.
Yeah, it's not quite a full slate of EFL. There's only one championship game on tonight. That's
Okay,
Birmingham
I've
versus
got
Lincoln.
everything horrifically wrong.
And Lincoln versus Lincoln's game has been called off, and Colchester's game against Doncaster has been called off as well. So not quite a full slate. However, the Scampi and Peas tonight will be massive. Arsenal versus Porto at the time of recording.
Yeah.
We're recording on Tuesday. Joe, a word from our sponsors.
Yes, I think I'm deluded, Jack, because I think I'm thinking of AFC Wimbledon playing Gillingham in what is a big game, and I've just assumed that everyone else is playing as well. But anyway, yes, a word from our sponsors, and we are very grateful for Green King for sponsoring our videos and the podcast for the entire season. And Jack, it's perfect timing suggesting this because you go to a Green King sports pub and enjoy the action. If you can't get yourself to a game, it is the perfect alternative. And for this weekend in particular, it seems like the absolute best next option, considering it's a sold-out Craven Cottage on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's FA Cup quarter-final weekend, and we won't mention the last time Fulham were in an FA Cup quarter-final because Manchester United host Liverpool. So it gave me flashbacks to last season because it was basically this time last year, wasn't it? It was Mother's Day, which was on Sunday, but it was it's obviously next week of last year. The only game that's not on terrestrial TV in the Premier League this weekend that you can watch at a Green King pub is the mighty Fulham against Tottenham Hotspur. Now, of course, we've already played Spurs this season at home and beat them on penalties. But if you can't make it to the game and you don't have a ticket, just go down to a Green King pub. You say you watch the Jack and Joe show on Fulhamish, and they probably will be like, "What is that?"
You'll get a few blank stares.
Yeah. But you'll have yourself a nice pint. I recommend the what's it called? Oh God, okay, I can't remember the name of the beer now, but it's a really nice. It's a really nice IPA. Oh God, what's the name of it? I think is it called like the Shipyard?
Is it Shipyard?
No, that's an ale. That's an ale. That's a Gareth Bale. I honestly, it will come back to me at some point.
Just ask for an IPA, and if it's bad, then blame Jack for not being prepared.
I know what it's called. It's called the Icebreaker IPA. Icebreaker. Yeah. It's an unbelievable IPA. I get it all the time I go there. But yeah, head down there to watch the game if you can't make it to Craven Cottage. Joe, we lost on Saturday to Wolverhampton Wanderers, but for the first time this season, I delightfully came out of the ground, having missed the Iwobi goal, leaving early, saying, well, I left at 95 minutes, so it wasn't like a complete catastrophe. I didn't leave at 2-0. That would have been horrible. But I came at the ground saying, oh no, anyway. What about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling like that now. On the day, I actually wasn't because I was quite wound up, purely just due to my life basically revolving around these idiots in white, or on this occasion in the unlucky black and pink kit. But anyway, it was just, I was annoyed because I thought we deserved more rather than anything else. And I was annoyed because this was like the last chance we had to have a very, very slim chance of, European football next season. It was always going to be nigh on impossible in terms of the fixtures that we've got left. But it would have just been nice to have that element of sort of suspense going into the next few games. But ultimately, Jack, it was a pretty irrelevant mid-table game. More important for Wolves than for us because they can still finish 8th. We obviously mathematically can, just very unrealistic. And in the first half, I thought we absolutely battered them. And obviously, part of that was due to how well we played. Part of it was due to the system that they went with 4 at the back, which was a bit of a bizarre choice from the People's pundit, Gary O'Neill. No comment. I thought it was also interesting that their best attacking player, Neto, went off injured. And at the time, I was thinking this is absolutely fantastic news for us, just in terms of he is their main threat. Obviously, devastating news for him. He's only just come back from an injury. It was very unfortunate for him. But I was thinking, where's their threat coming from? And they went back to their normal 5 at the back system. They had a completely makeshift front 3 of a midfielder, a left back, and a young forward that was making his debut, and they improved massively after the break. I don't think it was just due to our drop in tempo. I just thought they played far, far better. And in the end, that 20 minutes of the second half, 45 to around 65, maybe 70 a push, that cost us. It's a massive shame because it was a great, great performance for the remaining, 70 minutes of the game. Just such a shame that we didn't take one of those chances. Ultimately, don't take your chances. That's what happens.
Yeah, it was frustrating in that element. It reminded me a lot of that performance at Bournemouth last season when we went 1-0 up in the first half. And I was like, wow, we're actually looking really good. And then we just completely fell apart in the second half. The tempo switched from the opposition. Obviously, Bournemouth were down there at the time. They needed to win. But the whole game sort of changed. They scored 2 goals and won the game. In this instance, they scored 2 goals and won the game. And we obviously got the late response through Iwobi. 2 of the poorest goals you'll see. Like the deflection was just one of those ones where it can't be helped. It's just unlucky. It came off Tom Kearney. The first one, Bassi misses the header and then they pull the ball back and Nori puts it in the net. And yeah, and obviously the first goal sort of sinks us. We've sort of got to come back into the game. They can sort of play on the counter attack and try and pick us off. But Wolves had an element of control over that second half, and it was quite frustrating for us. And it was only once we went 2-0 down, we started creating a lot of chances. We're putting a lot of men in the box as well. And Palhinha came close, and Muniz came close, and Traore came very close. Sarr had one of those incredible games, really. Yeah. Even in the first half, he made a couple of good saves. And I said it on the pod the other day, it's just one of those days, like, if a goalkeeper has a good game against you, there's not much you can really do about it, really. And then Iwobi scores a marvellous finish, like one of the weirdest goals, but really, really good goal. Fulham deserves so much more from this game, and it gives me confidence. We go to Craven Cottage on Saturday against a Spurs team who I know won 4-0 against Villa, and that's a very impressive feat from them. I think we could ruffle some feathers at least on Saturday. I'm not saying we're going to win the game as such, but this is a question now. What did you think of Palhinha not being in the team? And what do you think about Palhinha now being in the team? There's a point being that I said on the podcast as well. The fact of the matter is he came on at 70 minutes and was booked after 72. He then could have got sent off for another tackle. He's got to be careful, just because, you're complete bullying and China shop attitude. Nothing against him. Just be careful because don't get yourself suspended for the next game because we're playing Spurs.
Yeah, what worries me is he's 4 yellows away now from a 3-match ban. And, if you get a 3-match ban, it carries over to next season. So if he got booked last day of the season, he'd be suspended for the first 3 next year if he's still playing for us. Hopefully he is.
This is his first game for Bayern Munich in the next season.
Fantastic. He's back for against us in the Champions League. Easy. I think that I disagreed with Palhinha not starting. And that's, but I do get why he did it. Silva is very much, he's always been this way. You earn your place back in the team. Palhinha got suspended. He wasn't injured. His actions got him suspended for those 2 games. It was his decision to make those challenges. Some of them weren't yellows. Most of them were, let's face it, out of those 10. So I don't think we can moan about like bad refereeing or anything like that. He deserved a 2-game ban at some point. If it wasn't then, it would be now, Lukic and Reed, I thought, had a great first half together. So I don't think that the reason that we lost this game was due to Palhinha not playing. But to put that out there right now, I'd have started him. I don't think it's made a huge difference that he didn't play.
Which is good. It's a positive.
It is a massive positive. I also think I wouldn't have brought him on. I don't know why we brought him on. We were chasing the game. We took off Pereira. I know this wasn't the direct substitution, but we brought on Palhinha. It was baffling to me. And then obviously he gets that silly yellow, which was really, really silly.
Really silly.
Okay, so in terms of this next game, I think that Palhinha has to come in from the off, and that's just partly due to opposition in terms of against this Tottenham side, who have got some fantastic forward players and seem to have, players coming back into form slightly. Maddison obviously been out for a bit, and he's got that goal at the weekend. Even though they're missing Richarlison, they've had other players up front filling in, doing a great job. Obviously, Brennan Johnson being one, Timo Werner being another. I'm nervous about this Spurs attack. They've got some great quality players. I do think we can really hurt them, though, when we go forward. So I suppose we should come on now, Jack, to what team we play and what
Yeah.
you would change from that team that started against Wolves.
It's the same old debate that we had, I think, last week and the week before, where was it last week? Palhinha obviously will come back in. Maybe he won't. I mean, maybe he just won't again, but I think he
Yeah.
probably will this time. And then who'd you drop out of Lukic and Reed? I've seen people haggling for or clamoring for Reed to start, and I've seen people clamoring for Lukic to start. And I think given the opposition we're playing, we're going to have a lot of bite in midfield to stop their sort of counter-attacking and their threats going forward, especially going into the final third. They do play very expansive football. We've seen Spurs have been very erratic in the way they play football. That's not a bad erratic. It's very entertaining to watch. It should be an entertaining game. But a player like Alex Iwobi will be key on Saturday because he can drive into that space. Even Andres Pereira can drive into that space and maybe on the counter-attack, and that's where we can hurt Spurs. And then Willian might come back to the team as well. But okay, okay. So okay, Leno, Castagna, Bassi, Tosin, Robinson. That's fine. Palhinha starts for me. Harrison Reed starts alongside him, and then I'd go with. I kind of want to go Iwobi in the 10, but I know he won't. I know Silva won't do that. But for the sake of the Jack and Joe show, I'm going to say I would like to see Iwobi start in the 10. Therefore, I think Iwobi's going to start in the 10. Willian on the left. Am I missing someone? No. Wilson on the right. Muniz up front. So that means he drops Pereira onto the bench. I wouldn't be upset if he started TC in the 10, but I don't think that will happen. I wouldn't be upset if he started TC in ahead of Harrison Reed, but I don't think that's going to happen either. That's my 11. Willian comes back in for me. Need a little bit of sparkle going forward. Him and Robinson obviously will link up very, very well on the left-hand side. Wilson on the right is very capable, cutting onto his left. Muniz up front because he's the form player. Although Broja did all right when he came on. What about you, Joe?
Slightly different, but not massively. Okay. Agree with the back five, including Leno, aside from Castagna, Tete. To be completely honest, wouldn't be opposed to Tete coming back in, but at the moment, it's a coin toss between the two of them. I don't really mind too much. Palhinha coming back in for sure. Like you, I'm really, really torn whether to start Harrison Reed or Lukic. What's made my decision actually is the Tottenham away game when Lukic started, which is an interesting one. And the way that Spurs pressed us, and they won the ball high up the pitch several times, obviously leading to the 2 goals. And that wasn't to do with Lukic, but I would probably rather have a more defensive option next to Palhinha as well. So I think I would go with Harrison Reed from the off.
Okay.
I would actually keep Pereira in the team. That's not to do with me rating him particularly highly, but I would rather have him from the off versus a Kearney who I'd rather bring on if we need a bit more control on the ball. I would go with Willian on the left. I would go with Iwobi on the right. I think that he's often played his best football when he's been on the wing. I think he's great in the middle, but Wilson did my head in on the weekend, so I've dropped him.
Why do you do your head in?
That miss hit the target.
The outside of the foot.
Yeah. And
you know, if we'd have scored that, would have been the goal of the season, for sure.
It was a fantastic move. And I know that it's, well, I'm not the manager, so it doesn't really matter because my decision is not what's going to happen. But I'm literally dropping him because of that miss, just because I think you should be hitting the target. I'm not saying you have to score it.
He came close in the second as well.
He did. I like him as an impact sub more than I would like, for example, Iwobi as an impact sub or Pereira as an impact sub. So I'd go that way. Moon is up top. Nice. Seen a couple of shouts from people now that the season's basically not over, but just in terms of we're pretty steady. You know, it's about finishing as high as we can, but there's no, massive things at stake here aside from pride and money that you get depending on what position you finish in. Yeah. Traore has been fantastic as an impact sub. Ooh. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him start at some point soon because
I guess he started in the Carabao Cup against Spurs and he's brilliant.
He did. And you know what? I thought it was so much fun. All his appearances recently have been great. Wouldn't be opposed to having his chaos. And one of the reasons it would be good against a team like Tottenham, when they press so high, it's almost just naturally pushing them back a little bit just by having him in the team. They can't afford to play as high a line if Traore is an option running in behind. They simply wouldn't be able to do that.
up against Udogie as well. So
Yeah.
that would be an interesting, or even if he played on the left, he's up against Pedro Porro. Van der Ven went off injured against Villa. Ange Postecoglou in his press conference after the game said that Van der Ven didn't think it was that serious. That doesn't mean that he's going to be fit and firing on Saturday, but whatever happens, he'll be probably, whoever will be playing in his place if he doesn't play, will be probably playing alongside Christian Romero. And of course, Spurs, that partnership, centre-back partnership between Van der Ven and Romero has been one of the most exciting this season in the whole Premier League. So looking forward to seeing Spurs again. They're always good to watch. Son, of course, will be playing, I'm sure. And obviously, you know what? If 4:30 in the Bedford Arms and we get the team up and we see Adama Traore, I will be barkeep another pint, please. That sounds like good fun. Not because I don't want him to start, because I'm celebrating the fact he's starting by having another drink of. It won't be icebreaker because that's at the Green King pub. And
you've just gone on mute. I was just going to say, score prediction, Jack, because I think we can get something against this Spurs team. I think that we've been playing well. I don't think that's,
sorry about
all good. I don't think that's just the Wolves' performance. I think that we played well against Brighton. I think that we played well, obviously, at United. I think we played well against Villa for the most part. A few silly errors there. Going back to the Burnley game where we had a silly 20 minutes at the end, we played fantastically in pretty much every game since January. And I really think that if we match that and we get the first goal, I think that's the important thing. We are rubbish when we concede the first goal. We are fantastic when we score first. Yeah, we're good.
What about Arsenal game?
First. Aside from that, what points have we got when we've gone behind? I know we got a point at Brighton when we went behind. And off the top of my head,
I can't remember.
This is tricky. I can't remember another result that we've got when we actually went behind.
Just a question for you, Joe, about the game on Saturday against Wolves.
Yeah.
Obviously, we beat United 2 weeks ago, but it's another defeat away from home. I mean,
the
performances aren't lacking.
The away record this season stinks, and I've had.
It's reminiscent of like Hodgson days when we or before Hodgson, and
it's been really poor. It's been really poor, and I've seen people saying, we've still got a lot of the lower ranked sides to play, and it's like, we're going to go to them when they're needing wins to stay up. That's not going to be easy at all. There's points that we should have picked up. We've been playing a lot of teams when they've been out of form earlier in the season and not capitalised. Newcastle being the prime example, Burnley being another one, and it's frustrating. But luckily our home form has been fantastic, and hopefully we can continue that. I believe I read that we've got the 4th best home defence in the league this season. And I believe that we might have got, let me check right now as we're filming, so I should have done this before, but I believe we were 7th in the home table. I don't know if the weekend results have changed that. Okay, they have slightly. We are 8th in the home table, which is very, very respectable. And we've only let in 15 goals at home this season. That's less than Villa. That's less than Tottenham. That's less than Newcastle. That's less than Brighton. It's only 2 more than Arsenal in the same amount of games played, which just shows, they've been wonderful at home. It's only 3 more than Liverpool, who have still yet to lose a game. 3 more than Man City as well. We're no pushovers at home.
Yeah.
And I really hope that we show that on Saturday.
And we're live on the box as well. So it'd be good to be like, oh, Marco Silva's Fulham a really good team. I mean, we are a good team. We are a really good team, honestly. Despite defeats away from home, despite the away form, I genuinely think, alongside last season, this is a very good Premier League team. And it's really pleasing. And I spoke about it with Jack last week. Like, it's pleasing to see us at this stage now when there was so much up and down, didn't know where we were, having to rebuild. Rebuilding after relegation is such a trudging effort, but actually stabilising the Premier League it's one of the best feelings in the world. I said to you at the weekend, said to our group chat, that wins in the Premier League this season, I think maybe last season as well. Yeah. Wins in the Premier League this season have felt incredible. Like the Brighton game, amazing. United at home, United away, amazing. And the losses of recent have just felt a little bit like, oh well, we go again next week because it's not too detrimental. And We've still got a lot to look forward to this season. We go to West Ham, we go to Luton on the last day, we go to Forest. I've just put that up this morning. Happy days. And we host Man City and Liverpool. We can have a huge say in the title race.
Yeah.
And it's just been fun. It's just been fun. It's just fun to be a mid-table Premier League team again. And we got to the FA Cup. Sorry, we got to the AFL Cup semi-final. We ruffled a few feathers there. So I mean, it's just good fun. Joe, I have one more question for you after I ask for your score prediction, which will be now, and then I've got another question for you. So, what is your score prediction?
I think it's going to be a really entertaining draw. I think it's going to be 2-2.
I also think it's going to be 2-2.
Well, it's written in the stars. I really hope so. I thought that against Villa, and I think I said that on here, and we nearly got it with that Traore late chance. I think it's going to be a similar vibe, a good team who will cause us problems, I think will score, but I think that we can cause them problems as well, especially if Van de Ven is out on the weekend.
Big old Desmond against Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur. That would be good fun. Looking forward to being in the hammy end on Saturday. And I'm looking forward to having some pre-match points with you, Joe, as well. That will be very good fun. Final question before we go.
Okay.
I'm going to start for the next few weeks on the Jack and Joe show, looking ahead to the summer, because it's sort of, we don't have much to play for anymore. We can start looking ahead, looking at targets. Where is your head at? Who do you want as an actual target? Is there anyone you've identified as you would want to sign personally? Or is there only just positions that you want to sign, you want to upgrade on? And also, let's caveat with the fact that Dom Smith from the Standard has said that we're looking to tie down both Kenny Tete and Tosin, and then Bobby Deagledover-Reid to new contracts as well. I think this is great just to keep the core squad together. That just helps with squad depth, and then we can add to that and maybe get rid of players who maybe I would be okay with it if we sold Pereira this summer and upgraded on him. However, that's quite reactionary, but also I think we can do better in that position, and that could be the difference between us going from like mid-table to maybe the next step in looking up towards the European places. Joe, what are you thinking for the summer?
First thought is, I hope the club is thinking about it now, like we are, and it's not like last summer, because priority one has got to be keep our best players, tie down the ones that are going to be wanted elsewhere. Robinson is one that I think they'll be interested in. We've obviously got him on a long deal. Tosin, try and hang on to him if we can make a last push, because the partnership with Bassi is great to see. Tete, I 100% think we need to at least take up the option for the extra year, but tie him down further if possible. And Palhinha, see if we can hang on to him. I also think that Willian has come out and said that his contract's actually only 1 year, so hopefully we extend that for at least one more, which is bizarre because initially it was definitely put as a year with an option. Seems like that option's gone somewhere along the line. It's very strange, but anyway, tie down what we have. Reassess the forward options has got to be the next step. Obviously, Brozier, we haven't seen too much of him. We don't know if he's going to be the answer in terms of our third striker, because we need three. I think that Muniz will be one of them. I think that Stansfield has to be one of them, returning from his loan at Birmingham. And I think that then it's a case of, can we upgrade? And if we can upgrade, then one of Jimenez has got, or Stansfield again on loan. Maybe if we could get him a better loan, that'd be fantastic. But I'd love to see him in the fold. I'd love to have Muniz, Stansfield, and one other striker. I then think we need to improve in our weakest positions. I agree that one of them is Andres Pereira. For the system we play, I think that we could do better there. I think we could do better on the right wing as well. And those are my instant sort of reactionary comments to that. But I think it's so exciting that we've got time.
But we said that last year. We said that the year before.
We did, exactly. And look what happened. So we just need to make sure that we back Marco Silva. I don't think he'd have signed that contract if he wasn't going to be backed. And, we've got the makings of a great squad, but we have to push on. Like you say, it's been great fun being mid-table, relatively out of danger the whole season. But you're in danger of stagnating. And if you're not going forwards, you're backwards. There's a real possibility that all three relegated sides will be the teams that came up this season, which is actually a disadvantage for the rest of the league, purely because on a normal basis, like last season, when, let's say, a Leicester went down, which was a bit of a surprise, and you had a poorer team, like, let's say, Everton staying up, or a Bournemouth, who weren't amazing last year but did the job, that's suddenly 4 quite disadvantaged squads going into the summer, as opposed to 3 this time. Everyone staying up this season, unless Luton pull it off, which I really actually hope they do, at the expense of a Forest or a Brentford.
Brentford,
yes.
Yeah,
Brentford ideally, but then other than that, Forest, it's going to be an interesting dynamic if it is the 3 that came up going straight back down.
There is a point to be made there, and the Premier League will look exactly the same as it did last season if that happens, which, by the way, is insanely boring, but also, is a chance for us to progress. And don't want to look over our shoulder, I want to look upwards. Anyway, if Leicester come up, they can and may well be, according to John Percy, the brilliant John Percy from Telegraph, may be hit with a points deduction, which is now spread into mainstream news. And there is some concerns there. It would be, imagine getting promoted and knowing you're going to be hit with a points deduction. Like, they would need about 45 to 50 points to survive. And that's just a long day. Imagine if they're just on -12 or -10 from the start. It's just where football is at the moment, where it feels like we can't go through a whole season without any team in the Premier League or Championship or League One, League Two having a points deduction. It just sort of tarnishes the actual football. But obviously, rules are rules and you have to abide by them, and therefore you get points deduction if you don't. But it is a bit of a shame. And I pray to God, goodness me, where's all the wood? Here we go, we'll touch it. That Fulham are never in that sort of situation. Feels like we are sensible with what we do, even if we complain about lack of funds and lack of spending and lack of transfer activity. That does also mean that we are not breaking any rules short term or even maybe long term, but you never know. One last point to make, and you mentioned it just now, Jay Stansfield. Wouldn't it be nice if we just had a homegrown striker in a Premier League squad playing Premier League minutes? He played very few minutes last season, but to have him in the fold for next season as an actual squad player for the whole 38, barring injuries, that would be huge kudos to the academy, because it would be like, oh, finally something's actually pulled off. Something's come off from the academy into the first team in Premier League football. The closest we got to that was Fabio Carvalho, and that was obviously a championship season. He got a move to Liverpool. That would be very positive, and it would maybe give other youth players, oh, actually, there is a pathway. I may have to have a couple of loans, but there is a pathway. And Fulham have a very good academy, and hopefully we'll see the fruition of that. And whether Jay wants to go permanently and like he could probably play at a top championship team as a striker, that would be fair enough. But to have him, and I think Marco Silva likes him, to have him in and around the squad next season would be brilliant, to learn off the likes of Money Muniz and Ralph Jimenez, and maybe another striker if we sign another striker. Joe, we've rattled on for longer than I expected today, but it is the nature of the game. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Enjoy the game, whether you're there or just watching at a Green King Sports pub. Either is fine. It's a very big one, and hopefully we can get a good result going into the international break.
Yes, and massive credit as well must be said about the last home game, where there was a bunch of fans in the Putney end next to. I know your face lit up there. Next to the away fans. That is something that maybe we could start thinking about. You get safe standing, and you get that, and we've got a proper football club.
I would love to know in the comments, actually, because I've said this for ages, and I've said it to my dad, I've said it to you, Jack, other friends of ours. If there was a designated sort of fan-made area that started like a Huddersfield sort of thing, where they just started to put fans next to the away section, would you move your season ticket? And my answer to that has always been yes. And I know that's not the unanimous opinion, but I think there would be enough that could move there. And I'd love to know in the comments, if you are a season ticket holder, if you're not a season ticket holder, but you're looking to become one, if you're just going to the odd game and would buy a ticket in the Putney end, if that was the case, if there was a, for lack of a better word, singing section, would you go there? If it was in, let's say, block P3, we've got safe standing, and just improve the atmosphere in the whole ground, because I think it would be fantastic. And, from next season, when we hope we have the separate turnstiles situation and we can have a properly designated home and away concourse area, I think that's the perfect time to implement it. And I would love to know your thoughts in the comments, so let me know.
Agree. I think it would make, I would say Craven Cottage is the most intimidating ground to visit, but it would make it would have a little bit of spark to it. between the home and away fans. There's not usually that much. When it used to be a neutral ground, even then it would never really used to kick off too much. But I'm not an advocate for violence. I don't think that's like the reason behind it. It's to just create an atmosphere.
It's back and forth, and if you go to an away game, the back and forth between home and away fans improves the atmosphere. That's unarguable.
Yeah.
And also, safe standing, it unlocks the other question of people want it in the Hammersmith end. A lot of people in the Hammersmith end don't want to stand up, don't want to move, etc. Sat there for years. There's less love for the Putney end, so put the safe standing in the Putney end. 2 birds, 1 stone.
2 birds, 1 stone, 1 Fulham. We are one of the biggest and best clubs in the world, and I'm so glad that I support them. I'm so glad that you support them, Joe, as well, because that means we can have a pint or 3 or
certainly
7 on Saturday. We've rattled on, but I hope you've enjoyed the show. We lost, but the spirits are high, and hopefully the spirits are just as high on Saturday evening. Thanks so much for watching, and come on, Fulham.